Hey, everybody, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming News. What's on the news today? Well, PlayStation, they fumbled the bundle. They picked up Bungie for $3.6 billion, and now they're having some regrets. All right, in an article from Tech4, PlayStation reportedly views Bungie acquisition as a failure. Bungie is one of the most celebrated developers in the industry, most famous for its work on Halo and Destiny. This studio has masterfully created two humongous first-person shooter IPs. However, the developer has recently struggled with layoffs, despite claiming to have found Bungie more valuable than a potential Activision Blizzard merger. Shit. Sony seems to no longer be happy with this team, with reports stating that Bungie is now considered a failed purchase. It's kind of like supersizing at McDonald's when it all tastes like crap. Why it matters? Because Sony paid $3.6 billion for Bungie, making it the gaming giant's most expensive purchase in recent history. The report comes from a YouTube streamer, Aztec Cross, whatever. He's got more than a million subscriber. He's been doing the Bungie stuff or the Destiny for years now. So apparently he's fairly reputable with this. So reports suggest Sony is unhappy with Bungie's leadership, holding them responsible for the poor performance of Destiny 2 following Lightfall. The game has been losing players, adding to PlayStation dismay. And you don't want a dismayed PlayStation because that would suck. All right. So these two knuckleheads here are bigger Bungie player or Destiny players than I was. I enjoyed the games for the most part, but I can't play the same game for 17 years in a row. So let's jump to these guys. Nick, jump on the Bungie. Do you think it was a failed purchase? Bad move.
I think Sony jumped without a Bungie. Boom, boom. Psst. All right. Anyway, yeah, I think it was. I think it was a bad purchase, mainly because Bungie isn't the company. I don't think personally they're the company they were back in the day, right? I mean, I think Halo was good. The first Destiny was a good outing into that open world live service type thing. There was some good expansions and some not so great expansions, but it ultimately, I think Destiny ended with a pretty good run right at the end. Destiny 2 has been struggling hard, especially with Lightfall. Before we started recording here, we were talking about we had been out of the loop for a bit, and we bought all the expansions up to before Lightfall came out, and we were playing through all the Beyond Light and the Witch Queen and stuff like that, and those were really fun. We were having a really good time. I was really enjoying myself playing through those. And then Lightfall came out, and Lightfall was just not good. It was just not good at all. And that's what really because I was getting on Destiny 2 about every day and getting on there and doing dailies and me and Pat a bunch were running dungeons and various things like that. But then once Lightfall came out, we got through the story, and once we were through the story, I was pretty much done with the game at that point. I could not continue. So it just wasn't fun. There wasn't a good gameplay loop in the Lightfall area, and the area itself, which was sounded cool on paper, really wasn't that cool when you got there. There was just a lot better places or environments in the Witch Queen and Beyond Light and those places like that. So yeah, I mean, Bungie's they really had just a lot of rockiness when it comes to Destiny 2, and that's all they have right now is Destiny 2. They don't have anything else. They might be working on Destiny 3. They talked about a remake of Marathon, or reimagining a Marathon, or maybe a sequel to Marathon, or they're going to do something with Marathon, which a lot of people don't know Marathon, right? That's kind of a hard sell, especially, unless you're a really Bungie acolyte, like around the time that Marathon came out, you were probably playing other games like Duke Nukem and Doom, right? And you weren't playing Marathon. So, like, I never played Marathon. I didn't learn about it till way later in life about the game that it even existed. So, it's one of those things. Like, I think it would be better off for Bungie to, I don't know. They're kind of in between a rock and a hard place with Destiny 2. What do they do, right? Do they go to Destiny 3 or do they just kill off Destiny 2? And will Destiny 3 revitalize the player base, or are people so torn down from Destiny 2 that Destiny 3 they're going to be reluctant to stick with or go into, right? It's going to be hard to say, but I think for PlayStation, for Sony, Bungie's always been wishy-washy when it comes to stuff. They have gone to companies, or companies have acquired them, or they've partnered with companies and did nothing for them and then backed out. And they've always been kind of just in and out of different industries. They went into, they were with, I can't remember who they were with before, and then Activision, right? I think, or something like that. And then they went independent, and they went all how they were independent. And then now they're with Sony, and it's just like, they just can't make up their minds. I think there is a really big, and has been for quite some time, a really big leadership problem. They just can't get, Destiny 2 could continue to be a really big franchise for them. They just have stumbled so many times. I think people have lost faith in what Bungie can do, and that's going to reflect on Sony, right? And so Sony originally was going to say, hey, we're just going to let them do what they want. But now I think Sony's going to put their foot down and start pointing them in directions, because clearly they need that direction, right? Now, whether that's going to be good or bad for Destiny or Destiny 3 or Bungie as a whole, I don't know. Right? Depends on how far the foot goes in for PlayStation, but we'll have to see what happens. But something has to happen. The direction that Bungie's going right now, I feel like they're just heading down. Right? They're about to crash and burn if they don't fix something, because Lightfall, like I said, Destiny 2 is the only game they have right now, and Lightfall did not help them. And then I think they had another expansion that they delayed. I can't remember what that one's called, the newest one that they had delayed, and that one looks cool. I think that was bringing Cade back, right, and stuff like that, which is they did that because they got to revitalize it in some way. But is that going to bring people back? If the next expansion comes out and it's just as bad or worse than Lightfall, I mean, you might as well just say put a nail in that coffin. They're done, right? At that point, they're going to have to make some huge changes, especially with Sony making some huge changes at that company in order to fix them. And what do you think, Pat?
They used to be owned by Microsoft, right? Until 2007 when they went solo. And then they stayed solo till just a couple of years ago, 2022, I think, when Sony acquired them, but called it a partnership. But Sony owns them. Sony owns that ass. And the final shape was the one that's being pushed out till June. I think it was supposed to come out last month in February. Now it was pushed till June. That was announced back in August or something. But yeah, it's supposed to bring the current saga of Destiny 2, or the current major story plot, to an end, right? So we finally get to see what's going on with the Traveler and the. I haven't played in so long, and I would forget the guy with the smoky hair's name. Smoky top dude that entered the Traveler. He entered the Traveler without the Traveler's wishes. So, yeah. When Lightfall came out and we got the Neo Mona dudes, I was like, what is this? And it's freaking techno surfers. And I'm like, oh, come on now. And it's just as lame as it all sounds, in my opinion. I didn't care for Lightfall. So I did the same as Nick did. I played through the story at that point, and then that was probably when I finished it first or second season into that DLC, or they call them expansions, I guess, into that one. So they've added much more storyline that I have not caught up with, and I had no intention to, because I found it quite boring, and the gameplay loop wasn't very intriguing to me anymore. But yeah, I mean, Sony owns them now, and there are rumors of Destiny 3, which could breathe new life in it, because I think Destiny is Bungie's good storytellers, right? I thoroughly enjoyed the first Destiny. Great game, played a lot of it. When I first got it, I didn't know what it was. I was expecting an MMO type game, and I'm like, okay, so this is like MMO light, it's like foray into looter shooter. I'm like, what's a looter shooter? It's an MMO, right? Where I just gear up, but it's very lightish in that, like, the raids are difficult, but they're nowhere near like MMO style raids, where you're spending 8 hours on a weekend trying to down the entire raid, spend first 4 hours doing one section and 4 hours doing another section. But, overall, it was a good game. And it was a good concept. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, they have been losing player base. A lot of players have shown disinterest in the current expansion and the story. The story is a little bit like, at this point, I'm like, what the hell's going on? And the part of the problem with the Destiny series is there's a lot of codex reading outside of the game that they expect you to do to catch up on the lore. And the lore is a good part of the game. It's a good chunk to know what's going on. You're like, who is this traveler? What is this traveler? And why are these people after the traveler? And what does this dude with the smoky hair want? And so, and then you're like, oh, he cracks open the traveler and now he's going inside of him. And you're like, okay, well, what the hell, but graphically and gameplay, it's pretty good. And technically once you buy the game, you don't got to pay anything else to play, right? You can buy the extra microtransaction coins if you want, and it's all cosmetic gear. So that, don't get me started on all that crap again, but I don't like microtransaction for a full price game, but it is what it is. And that's how they continue. That's how they, I don't know, in my opinion, charging chunk of money that they do for expansions when they're not really, I don't think they add enough to be called expansion. They're just like a new story arc. But yeah, I mean, what did Sony get for their $3.6 billion, which to me, I was scratching my head when I saw that anyway, because I think they were a $200 million company, annual profit company when they bought them. And I'm like, so you're telling me that you think they're worth $3.5 billion? I think Sony was just more trying to go to Microsoft and be like, hey, look what we got. Look what we got. I think that was more of a up yours buy than an actual business decision, in my opinion. Because if I'm looking at a company that's making $200 million a year and I'm going to offer them $3.6 million as a takeover or buyout, that just, I mean, that's just going to take you over 15 years to recoup your profit. If you think about it, to recoup your earnings. So I don't know, even over that, you're close to probably 18 years. I don't know if they thought that they could do more, but at the same time, they said, we're going to be hands off and let Bungie do what they want to do. Well, here we are 2 years later, and they're like, we got to put that boot on their neck because they're not doing what we want them to do. And so they are basically going to probably strangle Bungie out of existence and what we know it is today. And there'll be another one of their mobile game developers, because I think I saw that game you were talking about, and I'd never even heard of it. And I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, no wonder I never heard about it, because it was a freaking iOS game. It was built on the old Macintosh Macs through their Apple Pippin service or whatever it was. So it was the classic Mac OS game. And I'm like, that's why I never owned a Mac when I was younger.
I didn't know they made games for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why did they? I mean, didn't you, when I was in school, I remember playing like Clash of the Titans on the Mac and Oregon Trail and all that stuff on the Macs we had in computer class when I was a kid.
No, I just thought Mac, people who own Mac just like to sniff their own farts. So,
I mean, they get shafted now on video games. Not very many games come out that support Mac OS that come out for PC. So they do get the shaft a lot on the video game side of things. But like I said, when I first heard they bought them for that much, I was like, that seems excessive for that meager profit company that really, since their separation from Microsoft, they've only really done Destiny 1 and 2. I mean, they separated from Microsoft in 2007, and we got 3 games out of them at that time. We got was it 3? Halo 3, ODST, and Reach. And they, and they were like a couple of years apart. So like when that year they separated from Microsoft, we got Halo 3. A couple of years later, we got the ODST, and then like even a year or two later, may have been I think it was 2 or maybe only 1, Halo Reach. And those were probably already games that they were in development with and contracts with Microsoft before they did their separation, right? And then since then, it's just been Destiny in 2014 and Destiny 2 in 2017. So what's funny is that Destiny has been came out in 2014, lasted for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And now they've been riding the Destiny 2 coattails for 5 years. It's almost, it's almost 7. Yeah, excuse me, 7 years. So yeah, in 2014 or 2017, excuse me, to 2024. So yeah, that's 7 years. So they've been riding the Destiny 2 coattails, and I think it's time that they end that story arc and come out with something new, because I feel they're just rehashing the Guardian abilities. I'm like, you got 3, and then they have their own little specialty spec-in units for each one, and they added the tendrils, strands ones at the was that, I can't remember if Witch Queen brought that in or if or Beyond Light brought those in. It may have been Beyond Light brought in the new strand abilities and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's time, if they are going to do another Destiny game, it's well overdue. New Guardian revamps, new storyline, new engine, just a whole new facelift for the game. But that's going to cost money, and Sony right now doesn't appear to be in a very spendy mood with Bungie. They're going to be like, you're going to do what you failed to meet expectations after 2 years when we buy you, so you're going to do what we tell you to do. We hemorrhaged that $3 billion, and you've only made us $400 million, if that. We need more. We need more, a lot more, a lot quicker.
Well,
but that's just me. They may. I don't know if they could ever go independent. I don't think they could buy out that. Couldn't afford themselves anymore, so they're pretty much screwed. And Sony's going to do what they want to do with them now, which is probably what Sony wanted all along. They're just like, we'll give you a couple of years, make everybody feel good.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be like, time to do what we want to do. And now, I mean, they just did all those layoffs where they lay off 100 people or something like that, which was around 10% of their workforce. Was that? Yeah, 100. Yeah, I think they have 1,000 employees, so around 10% of their workforce. So what are you going to do? Yeah. Sony owns them. I'm bored with Destiny 2, so I'll tune in when the final expansion comes out, just so I can see the storyline and where it ended up. Because that's all I really care about is the storyline, finishing up the campaign and being like, okay, now I understand what's happening. The Traveler will live, or the Traveler will die. I doubt it will die, because then humanity will die or whatever. So, but it is what it is at this point.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. The big space testicle is going to crack open up. Jack Black is going to pop out of it.
It's already got a crack in it.
Singing some Britney Spears song. And then the game will end. That's it. That's it. Yeah, Sony, I think you're right, though, Pat. I think Sony made just want to make sure you don't do this move, and bought it up. Destiny, Bungie started with Activision. They did a partnership with the original. Wasn't it Activision or EA? I think it was Activision.
No, Bungie.
On the original, they partnered with somebody. I'm pretty positive.
They may have partnered, but they were never owned by a parent company.
No,
Microsoft.
not owned. They had a partnership with one of them. I want to say it was Activision,
Bungie,
but I can't remember.
Came out in existence in 1991.
No, after the Halo, when they went to start Destiny, they were contracting or something with. God dang, I really want to say Activision, but I'm probably wrong. But I know they did it with somebody.
I know. At one point, like NetEase had invested money into them.
Yeah, that might.
Like NetEase gave like $100 million or something for a minority stake in the company.
According to the wiki, wikis are true.
Wiki don't lie.
They signed a 10-year publishing deal with Activision. in
That's
April.
So publishing
2015.
deal. So Activision was just publishing their game.
I knew they did something with Activision. I
It was
couldn't
just
remember
right
what it
there.
was.
I couldn't remember. So
Which all that means is that Activision
Right,
gets
Activision
publishing rights.
rights. Yeah.
yeah. So I think Microsoft or Sony purchasing him up was just like you said, Pat. Look what I can do to Microsoft since Microsoft pretty much bought everybody else. They're like, I bought a full house. Sony's like, oh yeah, I bought a 3. So I was like, all right, go for it. It did seem like a really large purchase for a company of that size. Granted, they make decent money, but I just don't see it anywhere near that. Period. And to me, you cannot make the same game, literally Destiny 2 expansion for 7 years. I mean, people are going to get burnt. People should get burnt out, I should say. And it's okay to jump back to it. We jumped back to it, and then I jumped out, and you guys jumped back in a little bit deeper. That's cool. I have no problems with it, but I cannot play the same game about the same thing constantly. And it's just a new enemy. It's just new skins they throw on it with, a few tweaks and abilities. The game is fun because I play with my buddies, and that's one thing I really enjoyed. I never did the PvP portions. I think I tried it a couple times, but that was just to get points or something like that. I can't remember, but I do think it was a bad purchase for Sony. I think Sony did one of two things. They had a long-term plan figured out what to do with Bungie, the company themselves, or they just had a screw Microsoft moment and made sure that Microsoft didn't come back to pick up their toys. So I think in the long run, Bungie's gonna end up just being absorbed into Sony in places, or they're gonna be told, "Hey, we want you to develop freaking Resistance 4 or some shit." They're gonna absorb them in deeper into the company, and then the previous owners of Bungie, the ones that are still around, they're gonna evac, and then they're gonna start up their own companies again. I mean, it's just the way that it is, and they'll probably go back over to Microsoft. Hey, man, you remember when I made you all that money for that Halo franchise? How about me and you hook up? And Microsoft will be like, sure, a little partnership ain't gonna hurt. And that's just the gaming industry as a whole. But I think it was a bad mistake. I really do. I think they could have partnered. I think they could have made some backdoor deals to keep certain DLCs and things like that on PlayStation first and whatnot. Just like they did with Call of Duty, and save the goddamn money for when the franchise starts going downhill. They're not going to hurt as bad. But that's just my thought on it.
For a multi-platform game, putting anything out on one and not the other would have been a death knell for them.
No. I'm not saying not on the others. I'm saying more like just a time frames. Like I get you 3 months in advance.
That I don't think that would fly with. You can't really do that in an MMO style game because there's no real way to target that properly. I think that'd be a death knell. That would probably, because Destiny fans are pretty fickle. I mean, I hate to say it,
their death knell right now is just going at a lot slower. So, but
I mean, their death knell right now is they probably have less than 100,000 active players right now on an average daily basis, and that's across PC, Xbox, PlayStation.
I think what they need to do is just go back to Laurel's, make a solid game. Don't worry about all the DLCs, because I think that's where Destiny 2 hurt, was they played too much long game on it. And I think
I don't think it hurt them because that's what brought the players back, because they get to charge you like.
And I'm speaking more as a personal thing, because I enjoyed Destiny 1 when it came out. I enjoyed Destiny 2 when it came out, but I cannot play, and that's just me. I cannot play the same game for 7 years straight. That's why I only play Call of Duty 3 months a year. When the new one comes out the following year, I play 3 more months. it's a bad buy overall, though. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. And Bungie guys cash the check, so they don't really care. I don't think so.
Well, they will care now when they have
Get
the
sucked
boot
up
up
and
their
they're
asses.
pulled into Sony, and they're freaking making whatever dead game Sony wants to bring back to life. I don't know, but they're a great developer. They are. I think they just got too dependent on DLCs and the same game over and over and over. When I think they could have just done better myself. But you guys got anything else before we flush this? All right. Well, you made it to the end. Congratulations. You are now awarded the buttons of push. You can push the button for notification. You can push the button to like. You could push the button on your neighbor. I don't give a crap. But let us know what you think. Did Bungie and Sony partnership make a bad deal? Did Sony waste that check? Did they sign on the wrong dotted line? Let us know what you think. Let us know if you're still playing Destiny. These guys will jump back on. I'll jump back on with them, but I won't last as long because I get bored. I like shinier things. But until next time, see ya.